All right, kiddies. It is time to party. Listen, I've combed my hair this morning. I'm trying to take some pride in my appearance because someone left a comment that said, take a little pride in your appearance. You guys are all difficult to look at. So I'm trying to do that. I do think there are times. See, this is we'll start off with this. This is a little bit of a measure of profilicity, is like, and it's related to the title, which I just changed because I was inspired by my friend Sam Spencer, because he shared this Substack with me that I started reading. And I don't tend to read very many Substacks, but I started reading this one, and I will probably finish this one because it is it's good. I don't know who this person is, but they are excellent, and the writing is great. It's related to something that I care about, and then in like their description themselves, it says describing incarnational theology, and I'm just like, dope. I feel like that's something I made up. I feel like that's one of my Luke-isms. But I figured out some things on StreamYard. So here we go. We're going to do this. Tell me if it works. Tell me if you can hear this. I'm going to go look at the comments. Here we go. Is this working? You hear Jeff P. mewing, meowing, Mario Brothers. Look, I think it will just keep going because it's background music. Stop it. See, this is the danger. Pause it. Did that work? Must have worked. I figured out how to do branding. This took work. I have also, a long time ago, Chad made me branding. This is so for people who aren't familiar, in the TLC, this little corner of the internet, you can go check out Neil's video on what is this little corner of the internet. It is the online community which has emerged into real life spaces. We have met, we have had conferences, we have Estuary and the Estuary Protocol, which is a little bit different than TLC but related, that Paul Vanderklay and John Van Donk created. But it's a space. It is a space. It is a flotilla of channels where we play, where we have conversation, where we try to create online, what I like to say, online hospitality. In trying to maybe model for the world and to model for ourselves and to figure out outside of, it'll be related to this. It's about saving the appearances. Outside of ideological bounds, how to have meaningful conversations with the other. Perhaps you could call it the phenomenology of the artist, an artist of conversation. There you go. That is a video. Here, I will share it. I have a few videos to share, and then we're going to start reading. I don't know when I'm going to play the other branding. Chad made me some branding, so this is to honor Chad. The only reason that here's the thing. Somebody made branding for me, which is kind of like the whole reason I brought up the TLC is because that's something we do in streams and stuff, is Grimm started it, I think. Griswold Grimm, Gaius Griswold Grimm of the, I don't know, some LARPing order thing. I don't know. I don't follow Grimm enough to know all this. But he does all this branding. He does a ton of branding. His show is mostly branding, which is why Paul Vanderklay has called it unwatchable. But it is watchable. Many people do, and the people who love Grimm. But it's he does these little branding things where they're breaks for him, and then they're commercials in the spirit of Set, following what raised us millennials, Set, the TV set. So yeah, and he's our Gandalf. What was I going to show you? Oh, I just saw a few things. I'm gonna share the screen for a second. So this is the new YouTubes. This just came. Look at this. The Value of Value with Jedediah Pascal, my boy Jed. Jed and Daniel spoke. The glory of like the intellect and the erudition of these two gentlemen, the kinds of books and articles and essays that these two gentlemen, we should maybe keep a tally when watching this of the things that they reference, because they're very smart. I also know that our good friend Nate Heil, who, bless you, Nate, whose StreamYard I use from back in the Grail Country days when I used to stream on Grail Country, he I don't like that background. I don't know. I changed my background. How did I do that? Banners, notes, assets, style. How do I do this? What's the background? I don't care. Do I care? Do I not care? Can I make it? Yeah, let's make it darker. Or Moonlight. Which one? That one. The Blue Waves was terrible. I was looking for one of these. I wanted to be Tauruses. How about 3D spirals? That's horrible. I think black is the way to go. Am I right? I was thinking about yeah, I think I'm just gonna go back to black. If I could find a Taurus one, that's what I need to do. I need to have, these are kind of like spirally Tauruses, but I don't like it. Hey Chad, what's up, buddy? So anyhow, Jed and OG Rose talked. Also, Nate, Grail Country, is going to talk to Jed, which is fantastic. You know, that's good. I'm excited about that. I'm going to watch this later today. You should go check it out. But what I was going to show everyone first was this thing. This is what I've been watching. PVK Homeroom, Monarch versus Law, Spirit versus Instantiation, Secularity, which is going to be related to this. Then I was watching old Ethan Kahi here. Are we still following? But then this one. Rigel made a little clip of old Daniel, our boy OG Rose, Daniel and Michelle, who came to the last Rigel stream last Friday, and that's where I got that phrase, the phenomenology of the artist, which is great. That's phenomenal. That's also about like the event. It's very, where does truth manifest? In the event, and that's because we're saving the appearances. So what we're going to do now, this is what I want to do on this. We'll get to the branding sometime. But yeah, Fruit Loops. Delicious, right? Delicious. And there's different dyes in the Canadian ones because they don't want to poison their children like we do in America. Related to this is how spastic I am. I just was going to show someone. I haven't sent it to them yet. I took a screenshot of, see, this is what happens when your children drive, is they go to the grocery store and they buy garbage, and it's horrible. Like, I was just going to show you like what they bought at the grocery store. I was going to show it to my friends. I don't know if I should show it to you guys. But so we're just going to ignore that for now. I want to read some stuff. I'm just going to start reading some stuff. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start reading this article that Sam Spencer shared with me because it's excellent, and I think it's related to it. And then I'm going to read Grok AI summary of Saving the Appearances, because in reading it, I think it's pretty good, and it's better than I could explain it. And I think those two things are very valuable. And then we'll probably do a little homeroom, and we'll talk about Ethan Kahi and isms, because he, in his little reading that he had of that, the video that's in the, I think it's a Substack and a video, but it's in the description. Ethan dropped this little line where he said, you scratch these isms, you scratch the isms, and then they come and suck your blood. You know, you give them a little scratch, like a pet, you know, and you're just like, and you tickle them, you give them a little love, you give them a little affection, you give them a little attention, and then they come to suck your blood. You invite them in, maybe. They're like vampires. You say, hey, ism. Hey, absolutizing of an idea and an abstract ideology that will colonize every particular that I see. That's called the great philanthropist who loves mankind, right? But it becomes an ism because you have an idea of man that you project onto every individual person that you see. And through your abstraction, you rule the particularity, which is Antichrist, anti-incarnation. It's thinking that you can know God in any way other than Christ. And may I say Christ in me, which is loving everyone up to and including your enemies. All right, we're going to read some things. I don't know who this person is, but sometimes I come across writing and I'm just like, dang, kids, if I could write like this, and this is my renewed love affair. Look at this nice little garden path with writing. So this person is Steve Herman, this cat. What does it say? What does his thing say? Oh, can I not see it? Why doesn't it pop up? Exploring incarnationalism and something in the modern world where ancient paths of divine union illuminate the sacred ordinary. Fancy. So fancy. The theology of remaining. This makes me think of my friend Laura. Laura's talked about this a lot, my friend Laura. Incarnation, presence, and the hidden discipline in liturgies of the wild. This is very important in the modern world, in both online, but also in the advent of the combustion engine, because that allowed us to move all over the world. It made not remaining local in lots of ways through our various technological garments of skin. It made us, it gave us the ability to move out into the world. So let's read some of this because it's super good. There's some writing in here that's fantastic. Can we all see this? We're good? There's a kind of motion that passes for virtue now. And I also want to say this is related to isms. I was thinking about isms, motion, moving even mentally, not being ever at rest. It's a tenet of progressivism, one might say. Not necessarily motion, like the walking to work or leaving for a funeral, to crossing a room to shake someone's hand. I mean the cultivated velocity, the reflex to depart before we can be addressed, the disciplined habit of exit. Upgrade, pivot, optimize, relocate, rebrand. We move as though movement were an index of moral seriousness, as though staying were evidence of failure. Even our language has been catechized. Next, new chapter, fresh start, growth. The modern person speaks like a company announcing quarterly results and feels, without admitting it, that a stationary life is a life that stopped deserving itself. It's kind of hard to do that. Eugene Peterson, that faithfulness is long obedience in a straight line, right? I guess there's a kind of movement to that, right? Could be the spiral, but it's moving around a mystical center that you never quite get to, further up and further in. This isn't a scolding, it's a diagnosis of the air we breathe. Motion has become our secular sacrament. It offers a sensation of salvation without the burden of transformation. What a great sentence. Listen to it's like alliterative, right? It offers a sensation of salvation without the burden of transformation. Listen to those S's. It gives us a story, progress, evolution, becoming, while quietly sparing us the one thing that might actually change us, remaining long enough for our illusions to be stripped and our grief to speak. The culture calls it mobility. The soul recognizes it as flight. The deepest seduction is that motion can imitate maturity. A move looks like a decision. A pivot looks like humility. Reinvention looks like courage. A new place, a new job, a new identity. These can be real obediences, yes, but they can also be more subtle. A strategy for outrunning the precise corner of the world, corner, where God has arranged to meet us. We flee not because the place is wrong, but because the place is true. God, I mean, what a banger. We flee not because the place is wrong, but because the place is true. Yeah, that's good. We rarely admit how much of our growth is merely our ability to change surroundings faster than our interior life can catch us. Sometimes you have to leave in order to discover you can't outrun yourself. Departure is often the first mercy. I mean, this guy can write. Are you kidding me? It breaks the spell of the familiar. Makes me think of George MacDonald's line from Lilith. You only think you understand things because you're familiar with them, but that's not understanding. It's just familiarity. But remaining begins when the road stops flattering you, when the door shuts behind you and you're left with the one thing you can't curate, the given. I have to become friends with this person. Who are you? Steve Herman, who are you? The schooling starts there, in the unchosen hours, when you either stay present or you dissolve into escape. The ancient stories knew the power of leaving, which is why they treated it with fear. Exodus isn't a hymn to roaming. It's a terrible passage of a people out of a false belonging into a real one, forged through deprivation. The desert isn't a lifestyle brand. It's a stripping. Pilgrimage, in its older sense, didn't sanctify endless travel. It bounded the journey with return, with a vow, with reintegration, spiral. Initiation sent the initiate away so that he could come back marked, capable, finally, of staying. Even the hero's journey, so often sentimentalized into a permission slip for perpetual reinvention, is structurally a narrative of departure in service of homecoming. Wow. The old journeys were never about escape. They were about the death of self that required escape. God, it's good. As Martin Shaw himself puts in his latest book, Liturgies of the Wild, when I sit by the fire, folks don't often like it when I peer through the smoke at them, drop the small talk and say, what part of you has come to die? Oh, man. That's great. Those journeys have ends. They have limits. They were measured by a threshold crossed and recrossed. They were acts of belonging, harder, more humiliating, more real than the thrill of departure. Their telos T, wasn't the road. It was fidelity. Marriage, perhaps. The endless rediscovery within the bounds of your constraints, your limit, the body of your marriage. Our modern wandering is different. It has no end because it has no vow. It doesn't pass through danger toward return. It spirals. It isn't an initiation to place. It's an addiction to options. We keep the romance of the journey and discard its purpose. What remains is movement as analgesic. Isn't that how you say that? It's why Shaw's Liturgies of the Wild lands with such quiet force. It never announces itself as an argument against our cult of motion. It doesn't need to. It simply keeps telling stories in which the decisive moment isn't departure, but presence. Event. Presence. Stay present. The eternal now. In the event. Again and again, the book turns on an almost unmarkable truth. The soul is formed locally. The pattern becomes unmistakable. Shaw places the reader at the edge of departure, then withholds the exit. In the chapter on bones, meaning is refused abstraction. No one ever knows anything in general. They only ever know anything in particular. Meaning is not abstract information. Meaning is incarnation. You cannot know anything in general. You only ever know anything in particular. Father Stephen Freeman in like the 6-year-old video with Jonathan Peugeot. You cannot love mankind. You can only love the one you see. Kierkegaard, my boy McMo. And in each case, and that's the Good Samaritan, okay? It's the opposite of the great philosopher. It's the complete opposite. And very often through the mediums of these online spaces in which we move, we have been trained by the spiritual principalities that work through these mediums to tell ourselves, to virtue signal to others and ourselves that we love people through this great love of mankind, goodwill. Like we all want the good of man, but like we hate other human beings that we have to interact with. See your reactions that emerge when somebody does something to you driving that you don't like. All right. So here we go. Our bones, meaning is refused abstraction. In on prayer, efficacy is denied. In on praise making, redemption is delayed. And in each case, the reader is held in place until presence, not movement, becomes the condition of transformation. Across bones and death, initiation and limit, prayer and silence, the same discipline quietly insists itself. Transformation doesn't occur through motion, but through staying with what resists usefulness. Anti-utilitarianism. Healing comes not by escape, but by endurance. Faith is anti-utilitarianism, which is hard for people to wrap their heads around. Faith is what is not seen. It's hope. It's anticipation. It's trust in a person. It's Abraham. It makes me think of Paul Rene Nichols. What do you do? It's Peter Rollins, freedom from the libidinal pursuit of the lack, that which promises to make you whole and complete. It's wisdom, the book of James. That is, transformation doesn't occur through motion, but through staying with what resists usefulness. That is how you are transformed, through the acceptance of your suffering and the carrying of your cross. This is Christianity, and this is why Christianity hasn't been tried and found wanting. It's been found difficult and never tried, because it involves self-emptying, kenosis, giving yourself for the life of the world. Alexander Schmeman's For the Life of the World. Healing comes not by escape, but by endurance. And endurance for Shaw is never abstract. It always has a place name. Place name, Dasein. Place, language and place, rootedness. It's the opposite of this kind of phonetic Phoenician English that we have. It's language rooted in place. Shaw's imagination is saturated with particularity. Bones aren't abstract. They're buried in a specific soil. Praise isn't an idea. It's an attention acquired through repetition and familiarity. The slow learning of a place's speech, its birds, its shadows, its season, its dangers. It's fairies. Maybe we can't see fairies because we're disconnected to place. Sorry, I'm throwing a lot of things in there, but these are heaters. All right. Initiation, and this is one of my Lukeisms. You don't know anything in abstract. You only ever know anything through initiation, which is to be initiated in the particular. That's what this is. It's the same thing. Initiation doesn't occur by sampling the world like a buffet. It occurs by being held in one landscape long enough to be undone and remade. And whatever trains us to leave that soil, whatever keeps us elsewhere, isn't neutral. Ooh, neutrality. Neutrality, particularity isn't neutral, which is why secularity is one of the delusions of modernity. There's no particularity to it, right? It's generic. It's liberalism. The urban monoculture, the monolith, the abstract generic monolith. Objective rationalism. Evil in this world isn't only wickedness in the vulgar sense, it's fragmentation. It splits attention. It disintegrates the self. It severs us from the present by filling us with elsewhere, regret, fantasy, outrage, dread. The demonic in modern life often arrives at 1,000 exits. But that's also why we do mindfulness, right? Or like you stay present. You submit every thought. You take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. That is the same as mindfulness, by the way. It's just putting it in a personal, particular frame. Mindfulness, again, is generic. To what? But personal, it's your mind submitted to Christ. And so when your mind, because that's right, anxiety is the fear of the future, which is not being present, which doesn't exist. Only anything ever exists in the now. If you're abstracting to the future that you're anxious about, where does that exist? Now. But the future doesn't exist now. That anxiety exists now. But it's about a future that you don't know because you haven't been initiated in its particularity, because you're here. You're in the present. And shame and regret is living in the past, which what? Is that present? No, it's in the past. It's over. And you don't understand time and causality. Is there retrocausality? Sometimes, what is that illustration? That you can have an experience in the present that transforms your past. It's like maybe the negative aspect of it is what Jordan Peterson talks about when he's like, you find out that your spouse has been cheating on you for 30 years. Well, that reframes and retroactively transforms your past. This doesn't make this. We're going to get to this in Barfield, Saving the Appearances, because he will talk about this. But like this is a very hard thing for modernist people to wrap their head around, because they don't understand the hard problem of all perception. We'll get into it with Barfield. I don't know if we're going to read this whole thing because it's maybe very long. So I'll maybe just have to do a teaser, but I'm going to finish reading this at some point because this is very good. I feel like I should not read this whole thing. Let's keep going. Yeah, Phlebas also, yeah, send it. Listen, I am baptizing all these, like mindfulness. I'm baptizing it with take every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. This is what Christians do. They baptized pagan animistic culture and said, oh, this thing that you thought was this, let me tell you what that is. Let me enlighten you with the particularity of this abstract generality. This is called Christianity, baby. Christianity. Yeah. Let's keep reading. I mean, this guy is a great writer. Shaw's resistance to evil isn't spectacular or strain. Spectacle or strain. It's the quiet discipline of staying long enough to see and bless. Loving attention. This is so many things. Simone Weil, attention. Education is the art of learning to pay attention. And then once you learn to pay attention, you can somewhat apply wisdom and the intellect to your attention, and you can form through habits of discipline your salience landscapes. That's education, my boys. Find something and really look at it. Open some hidden chamber of your heart and give to it and give it 12 secret names. Be a praise maker. The devil hates this kind of thing. The algorithm isn't a devil, but it disciplines the same impulse. Never remain long enough for silence to become revelation. Doom scrolling. I mean, who is this dude? What a sentence. The algorithm isn't a devil, but it disciplines the same impulse. Never remain long enough for silence to become revelation. And listen, I'm just going to tell you, confession time. I don't do silence well. I mean, it's probably not surprising to anybody who knows me and my ADHD. Silence. It would probably supercharge my spiritual life if I did silence well, to allow for more revelation to come in and unveil and transform. Part of it is because life is busy. I got a lot of things going on. Also, I'm uncomfortable with myself. You know? It's probably why I come on here and talk to you, because I'm alone, not alone. But silence is difficult, like true silence, kind of Rilke-like solitude. And that is probably ultimately, I've thought about this before, that's probably ultimately the gift of death, where Christ has transformed death and death has lost its sting, because in your death you learn how to be alone with God. You know, that's when you say goodbye to everything. You say goodbye to all your isms. You say goodbye to all your idols. You say goodbye to all your false hopes. You say goodbye to your egoic knowing. You say goodbye to all of that stuff. And all that you're left with is the void. All right. Let's keep reading. I don't know. Parzival, look at Nate, Grail Country, Sartori, Parzival, everyone who loves, the Holy Grail and King Arthur. This is why Parzival matters in Shaw's retelling. His failure isn't primarily that he's sinful or stupid. Instead, he can't remain present when the suffering demands him. He moves on at precisely the wrong moment, not because he's a villain, but because he's modern. He can't tolerate the raw address of the wounded other. Ooh, what is friendship but the giving and receiving of wounds? One of my favorite books of all time, Godric. Buechner. And I know PVK likes Buechner. He can't bear the unsolved. He leaves to preserve himself. His tragedy is the tragedy of a self trained to flee from what it can't manage. It seems the full telling of Parzival is withheld until the end because he cannot be understood sooner. Introduced earlier, he would have been absorbed into our reflex for motion and admired as another figure of quest. Instead, Shaw waits for the reader until the reader has grown suspicious of wandering. When Parzival finally appears, he is no hero at all, but a man who leaves too soon. The delay is the teaching. Only after the exits have failed does his absence of presence register as catastrophic. Okay, I'm going to stop this. It's called The Theology of Remaining, Desert and Fire. Steve Herman. this cat. Exploring incarnationalism for the modern world. I mean, PVK is a sub. Look at this. Who else is a sub? Look at Robert. Hey, my boy Robert. Chad and Julian. These are all friends. Robert, I got to meet in real life at the first TLC conference in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Robert's a good man. His wife's a good man. We hung out with some wild Canadian ladies there. They were wild, and they had a crush on Robert because he's a handsome Dutchman and who works with his hands, and they loved him. And Robert, they didn't explicitly tell him. They told me. And they were just like, does his wife know how lucky he is? And I'm like, I don't know. Probably not, because he's familiar. She's forgotten. You know? Who knows? She maybe does. I'm sure she does at times. You got to save the appearances. Oh, transition. We're going to go into a transition to read the rest of that article. Like and subscribe. I subscribed. After reading that, I might decide to pay that guy some. I don't know, you know. This subscription-based economy that we're into, you know, the worker is worth his wages. This is a conversation I also want to have in the TLC. How do we talk about money, monetizing things, making money? This is my boy Rod. You know, Rod Hair. Sorry, I got a cough mic. Should we do a branding in between before we go to saving the appearances? And then we're going to open this up. I mean, we're already 31 minutes in. We got to. Okay, let's do it. This is for you, Chad. Which one? Chad 1 or Chad 2? We're getting rid of that. We don't need it anymore. I'm going to finish reading it, though. Let's go. Poppy's first branding. Here we go. I'm just going to go with Chad branding 1. So here we are.
As I was walking down the street, a billboard caught my eye. The things that were upon it would make you laugh and cry. The board was torn and tattered from the storm the night before. The wind and rain had done its job, and this is what I saw. Chew chocolate-covered mothballs, they always satisfy. Drink Wrigley Spearmint root beer, it'll never leave you dry. Smoke Coca-Cola cigarettes or know the reason why. Brush your teeth with dial soap and watch the suds go by. As I recovered from my shock, I went upon my way. I hadn't gone but half a block, and what to my dismay, another billboard caught my eye, and like the one before, the wind and rain had done its job, and this is what I saw. Take your next vacation in a brand new Frigidaire. Learn to play piano in your winter underwear. Simonize your baby with a Hershey's candy bar. Texas Oil, the beauty soap, is used by all the stars. Now doctors say that babies shouldn't smoke until they're 3, and people over 35 should bathe in Lipton tea. And if you want the world to be a better place by far, buy a record of the song and smash it with your car. Hey!
There it was. Yay, Chad! Yay! Chad's my friend, and he made something special for me, which was nice. I mean, what content are we talking about? Here's another thing. I'm not interested in making content. Content is for people that are trapped in algo land, in information land, in modernist land. Content is for people who don't know how to save the appearances. This is my big criticism of Christian YouTube or any sort of YouTube content thing, content makers, influencers, like all that kind of stuff is I'm interested in cultivating spaces for conversation and hospitality. I don't know what we're talking about. Listen, I'm not doing branding. Chad's doing branding, and I want to honor him. So what we'll do now is we're going to go read Grok's summary of saving the appearances. And also, Nate, if you're here, I'm so excited. I'm excited for your talk with Daniel. Here's another plug for your future talk with Daniel. I'm going to watch his talk with Jedediah today sometime. I'll probably watch that during my exercicio. Let's go do Grok. Let's go to Grok's saving the appearances summary. And Nate, if you are here, you can maybe come on if you have time to tell me if you agree with this. So here's my question for the old Grokster, the old Grockaroony, the old Grockalaka. What does Owen Barfield mean by saving the appearances, a case study in idolatry? Which this is a book. Here, this is my own patting myself on the back. I guarantee I'm the first one in the TLC to bring up Owen Barfield. I know I told PVK about this book, and I said, this book is about the thing behind the thing behind the thing. This book is like what's really going on, but it's kind of like Jonathan Peugeot. I don't think most people have a capacity to understand it. And I'm sorry I can't explain the thing to you. I but barely apprehend it myself. George MacDonald Lilith. Owen Barfield is like the shiznit. Is the shiznit a thing? He's flipping excellent. And hopefully the summary is good. Let's get back into it. Okay, Owen Barfield's book, Saving the Appearances, a case study in idolatry, first published in 1957. I mean, come on. Is a philosophical exploration of the evolution of human consciousness, perception, because this is the thing about perception, right? Perception is the thing behind the thing. If you don't understand perception, you don't understand content, you don't understand information, you don't understand anything. And this is why I say it's the hard problem of all perception. It's like the double slit experiment. The perceiver is involved in the nature of perception. And if you don't understand what a perceiver is, you can't understand perception, and you will not save the appearances, and you will be a slave to powers and principalities and isms, and they will monopolize your thinking, and you will think you are a good person, loving the generic isms or mankind while you hate people. This is why saving the appearances is important. Let's go back. Dude, this is okay. First, let's remove this. YouTube hasn't let me know you were streaming in a while. I could come on after my morning meeting if you're still streaming. See, this is the thing about the algo. Like, what's going on with the algo? Even my friends, even like some of my best TLC friends don't even know when my videos are happening. Also, apparently YouTube is not promoting long form content because it's all about shorts. And Ethan is trying to convince me to just give into shorts. Like, what did Ethan say to me the other day? He's just like, dude, you were made for shorts. What did you say, Ethan? Yeah, he said, okay, let's change. We'll go back. We're going to get back to saving the appearances, okay? I'm sorry. We'll start over. But I have to share this is Ethan's thing. And Ethan said, can we see it? What did he say? He said, you are literally built for shorts. Also, don't say literally like that. Any sub 3-minute video with a short in the title. You could be firing off like 20 of these a day. Get after it. You know, I appreciate the encouragement, my friend. I appreciate the encouragement. All right, let's remove that. Let's end it. Let's go back and share. We're going to go back to Grok, saving the appearances, and then we'll open it up and we can chat. I'll do a brief thing about what is law. And how does this relate to law? Because I want to save the appearances of the law. And that's ultimately why PBK in his homeroom was talking about the difference between spirit and law, and why Christianity, a little bit different than, although Judaism is complicated. And Yosef, I know you were here. You can correct me in the comments or when I open it up. Because the way that Jews understand law is a little bit different than I think modern people, especially Western people, understand law. It's merely an abstract thing, and I don't think that's technically like what the Torah is for sure. And law is, it's almost a living thing, which is very close to. That's why Jesus is like the the human Torah. But this is related to law, and Claire Kaw's whole thing about laws all the time. All right, we're going back. Here we go. So Owen Barfield's Saving the Appearances, A Study in Idolatry, is a philosophical exploration of the evolution of human consciousness. Are we back? Yeah. Perception, and our relationship to the natural world. It draws on history, science, theology, mythology, and linguistics to argue that how we experience reality has changed over time. Spiral dynamics is related to this kind of stuff too. And that modern ways of thinking risk reducing the world to meaningless idols. Amen, glory, hallelujah. Could not agree more. The title borrows from an ancient astrological concept. I didn't know this. Astronomical, sorry. Originally from Greek thinkers like Plato and other astronomers like Ptolemy, where saving the appearances meant devising a theoretical model, again, an abstract thing, like geometric orbits, that accounted for observed celestial phenomena without claiming to reveal the absolute truth behind them. Barfield adapts this metaphorically to critique the modern consciousness and a path forward. This is also why I love Notes from a Tilt-A-Whirl so much, of what he always talks about, like what is matter, and you can break it down. Or George Box's quote that I learned from Rob Bell. Listen, I learned a lot of these good things from Rob Bell, that all models are false, some are useful. That's the most condensed, succinct way that you could talk about even a lot of E. McGilchrist's works. That there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs, that there is no text without a context. All models are false, some are useful. That says everything about law and spirit too, by the way, if you have eyes to see. All right, let's get back to George, or not George, Owen. What is an appearance? In Barfield's framework, appearances, or phenomena, this is why phenomenology is so important, refer to the sensible world as we perceive it, the colors, sounds, smells, textures, and forms that make up our everyday experience of reality. These are not mere illusions or subjective hallucinations, but collective representations, shared constructs shaped by human consciousness interacting with an underlying independent base of reality, what Barfield calls the unrepresented, akin to subatomic particles or quantum fields described by physics. But it's neither of those things, because you get into an infinite regress. Subatomic particles would be some form of substance ontology, which again, there's an infinite regress. What is it? You get into like dark matter, and like Notes from a Tilt-A-Whirl, that video that I like to play talks about it. Like, is it the model of the atoms? Is it subatomic particles? Is it those? Or what are those things? It keeps breaking down into empty space. And quantum fields is like field theory. I mean, it's relational ontology. And there's a relation between substance ontology and relational ontology. For example, the redness of an apple or the sound of thunder isn't out there independently. Or if it is, it's an angel, I would say. The idea of red. The generic idea of red, which you don't know in general, you only ever know in particular. What is red? This thing is kind of red. But you know what I mean. This pen is red. And then, like, is red, this is a philosophical thing. I mean, I don't know. I think technically Western philosophers get into it of like first principles, secondary principles, red, the redness. Is it present in the pen? Or can we get into an abstract philosophical mental gymnastics of where like, well, it's actually light and it's reflecting light. It's reflecting red light back to you. So your phenomenological experience of the red pen is that it's red. But like red isn't present in some sort of substance way in the atoms of this pen. The light bouncing off of it is red. It's actually anti-red. But like, okay, let's keep going. For example, yeah, redness of the apple, it's not out there independently. It's a representation generated through our participatory relationship with the world, what I just was talking about. Ancient peoples experienced these appearances as infused with meaning and spiritual participation, what Barfield terms original participation, which is really similar to like Charles Taylor's porous selves. Like why everyone, everyone was religious and thought the world was full of gods. Like that's what original people thought. Like it was it's almost like, the people who own Billie Eilish's house in California, the native people, because she's on stolen land. And those native people who owned the stolen land that she stole from them, because no one owns land except the Indians did, that Billie Eilish stole it from, that she was virtue signaling at the Grammys about. Well, then she should give these Indians her house, right? But they had original participation. Their ancient forebears did, because the river, the spirit of the river and the river, they were one. They had an iconic knowing, an unconscious, not self-aware iconic knowing with the world around them. The spirit of the mountain, the spirit of the, go watch Pocahontas. Where nature felt alive and interconnected with the human mind. In contrast, modern science treats them as objective facts detached from us, which Barfield sees as a form of distortion. Yeah, it's called objectivism, and it's idolatry. Big smile. Objectivism is idolatry. Okay, we're going to go back. Absolute truth, abstracted, generic, absolute truth that isn't instantiated in particulars. This is maybe the false characterization of Plato versus Aristotle, right? I think. I don't know it well enough. Okay, let's keep going. What does Barfield mean by the title and the study in idolatry? Are we doing this? Yeah. Barfield uses the phrase to describe the need to rescue or preserve the true significance of these appearances from being degraded to idols. Because all icons can become idols if you lose your iconic vision, your participation with them in an adverbial way as icons. If they become ends in themselves to some abstract, weird thing. Idolatry in this view occurs when we mistake appearances for ultimate, self-sufficient realities, treating them as independent things in themselves without acknowledging the human role in shaping them or the deeper spiritual dimension they point toward. This happens in modern materialistic thinking, where science reduces the world to measurable particles and laws, stripping away meaning and turning phenomenon into hollow idols, echoing biblical warnings against false gods. For instance, viewing a rainbow solely as reflected light waves ignores its participatory, meaningful aspect of the representation co-created by human perception. That's also Lewis's sublime. Like, you can't, words like that don't mean anything. You lose meaning in an objectivist world because the waterfall or the rainbow is no longer sublime. There isn't sublimity in it and in your experience of it. It's just reflected light, man. It's just this emergent emotional thing that isn't real, man. That's not objectively real because it exists apart from you. Does it? If a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound, George Barkley? All right, let's get back to it. Listen, you guys just trust me. All the stuff I'm saying to you is true, okay? Just have faith. I guess it would be nice if I could touch your body. I know not everybody has got a body like, is it me or you? You, me. And I gotta think twice before I give my heart away. 'Cause I know all the things you say, 'cause I say them too. Oh, what I need some time off from my emotion. I don't know if I know all the lyrics. Okay, we're going back to Barfield. Stay with me. Stay with me, please. Okay, this book is a study in idolatry because it traces how this mindset emerged through historical shifts, like the scientific revolution and the rise of Judeo-Christian monotheism, monolatry, which severed our sense of unity with nature, leading to a disenchanted, alienated worldview. Sound familiar? Existentially? It's just like nihilism, right? Where did nihilism come from? Oh, man. Scientific revolution and Judeo-Christian monotheism without a proper Trinitarian understanding. Sorry, Sam. Barfield argues this idolatry is a stage in consciousness evolution, but is problematic because it exploits nature without recognizing our creative participation in it. The phenomenology of the artist, right? This is what our boy Daniel was saying with Rigel. Rigel, Moonsong, Thirst On. Risking spiritual emptiness. Depression. What's the term? Ennui? Is that the thing? Is that what we're talking about? How does one save the appearances? Here we go. Here we go. How do we do it? Yes, I do. I escape dualism all day. Saving the appearances involves evolving beyond idolatry toward what Barfield calls final participation, a conscious, imaginative reconnection with the world where we actively co-create meaning in the phenomena. This is the importance of the event versus institutionalism or economic meaning. The meaning of the event is living in the eternal now, in the event, in the phenomena, not in the generic abstractions. This is final participation is the cure for the ails of modernism, and we can keep some of the goods of modernism. We have to just figure out what those are and how to do it. This isn't about reverting to ancient myth thinking, but this isn't restorationism. It's further up and further in, kids, but advancing to a higher awareness. Can you take me higher? Key steps include recognizing participation, acknowledging that appearances are representations co-formed by human consciousness and the unrepresented reality. The unrepresented reality, which I guess exists independently of you, but it's unrepresented until it's co-formed by human consciousness. This is why if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound? No, and you can never know that. You can only think you know that through an abstract projection of an ideology. You can never actually know that through a phenomenological experience of that reality. Because the unrepresented doesn't become presented until it's co-formed in your consciousness. This is the hard problem of all perception. Trademark me. This counters the modern assumption that the world is static and independent of us. Breaking idols through iconoclasm. Challenge materialistic views by questioning scientific hypotheses as mere models. Hypotheses that save the appearances temporarily, rather than absolute truths. Use imagination, poetry, and spiritual insight to see beyond surface phenomenon to their deeper essence. That's iconic knowing, kids. Follow the line, follow the thread. Cultivating final participation. Engage in practices that restore symbolic resonance, such as art, meditation, and contemplative science. Participating in the liturgy. To experience the world as meaningful and interconnected again. Barfield draws on influences like Romanticism, Christianity, and anthroposophy. Cover your ears, Anselman, from Rudolf Steiner, to envision this as participatory creative process where humans consciously evolve with nature. Ultimately, Barfield's message is optimistic. By saving the appearances, we can overcome disenchantment, restore spiritual depth, and participate in a more unified reality. The book has influenced thinkers like C.S. Lewis, who called Barfield his wisest teacher. Powerful, although they had the great battle, they fought a lot, and continues to resonate in discussions of consciousness and ecology. If you're interested in diving deeper, reading the book itself or Barfield's related works like Poetic Diction could provide the full context. Woo! We did it. We did it, kids. I think Kierkegaard's radical subjectivity is this. I think he's basically pointing kind of at the same thing. Let's do another branding, and then I will open it up for people who want to come and play today. Do you want to play? Do you want to come sing songs? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. I left 9 comments on the Glenn Sunshine conversation. And he did his whole randos in the PM. Nice. Like, good work. Let's see. I timed it. I left. Let's count them. Wow. So blessed. I actually showed those to my, I don't know. Why does he keep skipping 6? You got to ask Chad. There's an Easter egg. What is he really saying? 6, 7? Is it 6, 7? Do this for the algorithm. 6, 7, kids. Look at 6, 7. That was on the Glenn Sunshine video. I posted 9 comments. We should go count. Maybe I'll open this up. Skip 6 3 times. I'm going to open this up for people to come and play. We're going to look at rules first. I think those rules come up on my thing, though. No. Before I post this, I'm going to put rules, and then we're going to do something first before I post this, because we're going to look at rules. And we're going to community guidelines. Visit community. Where's it at? Community settings. Channel guidelines. Here we go. And then I'll open it up. And then I kind of want to look at how many comments I left on PVK's talk with Daniel. It was probably about 20. All right. Are we doing the channel guidelines here? Welcome to a space to scatter seeds and conserve hospitality. Take some seeds to plant. Wow. This is like a seed bank, right? Welcome to my seed bank. Don't get gross with that. No name calling. Steelman ideas, okay? Oh, I gotta take down your comment, sorry. Boom, Yosef. I see what you did there. Steelman ideas, Starman persons, charity. Also, I decided, can I add that? Oh, I can't. I don't have no space. Another rule that I will just tell you, it's not written, it's just a verbal rule. No psychoanalyzing. Don't psychoanalyze other people unless they invite it. If they invite you to give them the gift of your psychoanalysis, cool. But it's just, I don't know, what's the word? To psychoanalyze someone without their permission and also to absolutize your psychoanalysis as if it's gospel is shitty. I think it's shitty is the word. Try to listen and ask genuine questions more than you talk. Try to not interrupt. I reserve the right to moot and boot. Moot and boot. Moot and scoot and boogie. I think I'm going to do that every time. That's going to be my Brooks and Dunn crap country homage. Boot and scoot and boogie. So those are the channel guidelines. I should have already, and then, oh, I gotta go. Discard changes? Yeah, discard changes. I gotta go to my, I don't want the studio. Sorry, guys. This is not having things queued up, not doing a good job. Oh, I was going to look at the PVK. Yeah, we're going to do that first. We're going to look at PVK. I'm going to open it up, and then while people come in, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to look at the PVK, how many comments I left on the Daniel video. Oh, we're doing it. You guys, I was already sharing it. I didn't even realize I was doing it. You saw like my Mad Fit stuff. I love those videos, by the way. Who is Glenn Sunshine? Were you listening to me, YouTube, and you're suggesting Glenn Sunshine again? Who is Daniel from OG Rose? Let's count up my comments. So easy. We don't need ads. 119 comments. Here we go. We're counting. Ready? Oh, I'm going to count after I put the link in. So I got to post the link. Right? And then I have to pin the link. And then I need to, oh, also I was going to say mods. If I have made you a mod, it means I trust you. And you should use your wrench if you need to. Like if people are being out of line, mute them. Mute them. Boot them. Okay, Daniel, we got 1 comment, 2 comments. Where else? Where are we going? Why aren't all my comments just up top? All right, 2. Sometimes YouTube moves my comments to other videos, which is terrible. 3. Let's keep going. 4. This is fun, isn't it? 5, 6. No, 5. And then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 comments. Holy moly, my kids. Look at who we got. Big fish. Big fish in the pond. He's going to tell us what's up. Here we go. What up, buddy?
Been a while. How you doing?
It has been a while. I'm doing well. You know, it's not as cold in Minneapolis. It is, you know, things are not quite as wild here as they were perhaps a week ago. So that's always good.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about, oh, I didn't ever say even the law thing, but I'm sure this is what you have things to say is like laws and rules that's basically my cliff notes in light of everything Owen Barfield said. The law can't become an idol. You have to save the appearance of the law.
Well, what do you mean by save the appearance of the law?
Everything I just read in
No,
Owen
I know,
Barfield.
I listened to you. I mean, I listened to Grok. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Speaking of the appearance, right, of the book, Grok is
I suppose that it's the same as that you always need discernment. The law does not exist in and of itself. If it would be an unrepresented self. And so as it appears to you in your own perception, then you co-create the interpretation of the law, the perception of the law, and then you apply it to the given specific context.
So where does everything outside of the individual fit into that? You know, so the law is, you know, okay. You can either take it as the tradition or the book, but either way, you take it as one of those things. But then there's like you living in community, and like it's not just you and the law; it's you and everyone else around you, and that tradition slash book,
Yeah, right.
whatever. So it's not just you in this individuated interaction, right?
No, but that's my difference between the person and the individual. The person isn't the isolated autonomous individual. The person is the unity of the relations that a person has with all of those different contexts.
And so from my perspective, that would mean that the law is always personal. It never is, because there's no such thing as a disembedded law. A law is
Right.
always, especially like a religious, like we'll leave like secular law for a second, but like specifically the Torah, like it's
Yeah.
always only as it's realized by the like everyone participating in it and your own person. So like, where's the? It's almost like a question of like what is there to save, because I don't see an idolatry of Torah happening. So like I don't know what like why we're even saving it. What are we saving it from?
Well, I mean, so the specific, the way that we're talking about within Judaism, Torah, like I know, and this is why I said it earlier when I was saying this, I said, I know
No,
Yosef and Hezi will have nuance about this because it's not, because I know you guys don't, I've talked to you enough to know you don't conceive of it that way. But I suppose like not saving the appearances as it relates to law would be legalism. It would be unending bureaucracy and lawyers interpreting everything, and then there are laws to interpret the laws, and laws to interpret the laws, and laws to interpret the
sure,
laws.
but that's also participating. That's also part of a participation. Like even so, Torah laws have laws about themselves, right? There are meta laws, and like you know how there's hermeneutics and like all those things exist in Torah. But when you do that, you know, I am participating then. There's a very famous list of like 13 principles of exegesis or hermeneutical exegesis for law by Rabbi Ishmael. That like when you study those, you're participating in his concept of the law and in him in a way, and he has become part of that person, like that personal like network, right? And there's this very famous image from Rabbi Soloveitchik where he says like when he studies a page of Talmud, and you know that you have the Talmud in the middle, and then you have like all these commentaries around it, kind of in multiple concentric circles. Well, circles is the wrong word, but concentric columns. Like when he reads them, because he like every day of his life, you know, he was like studying these people, like they were real people for him. Like he like felt like he had a real relationship with each of these authors and each of these things, and he knew not only he had a relationship, but he knew his father had a relationship with them, and his grandfather, and his son, and his uncle, right? Like, and like there was just like it was all part of like they were having an infinite conversation, a dialogue, a dialogos, but it was it was like you can say like to you it might appear legalistic because they're talking about okay we're doing this rule and that rule and like but everyone's bringing their own like what is the law and how does it play out and how do we actually take this and apply things to our world in like a lived real experiential sense and to me even secular law does this to some degree, but I think it does try to divorce itself from the persons who originated more. It's not quite as much rooted in the same way, but even there are personalities of the Supreme Court, like there are justices, like people who study this stuff and like are really interested in like the grand theories of law and originalism or whatever, right? Like that we do get that. So I don't know that that's any less personal or personalist.
So I have a question for you, I guess, is because I would agree with all those things that you're saying, and I even have my own existential experiences with that. Like I've had that I think certain authors that you read enough, even authors that are dead, I think this is where the written word can be iconic and not static in the way that I've sometimes criticized it, because you can, through the writing, if you hold to the writing as an iconic relationship, it's almost like you have a living interaction through the art of the written word medium with that person. Like I've had that with Lewis some. And so that's not the kind of thing I'm criticizing. I'm more criticizing the modernist objectivist spirit that thinks that meaning exists in the written word per se, divorced from the author. And this is like a big debate. Like Umberto Eco, I think, has talked about these things of like, is the like the death of the author, authorial intention, all those facets go into this debate. And I think modernism would almost, it's the difference between probably awakening meaning and even conveying meaning. If you think you can convey meaning through the mere technique of written language that has like a substantive transactional thing in and of itself, you're completely missing. You're in a presumed worldview that you're probably not even aware of. That is what Barfield is critiquing.
So I mostly think I agree with that. I think you said you had a question. I didn't hear a question there, but
Oh yeah, that's a problem that I do, is where I tell people I'm going to ask a question and then I just give a little presentation. I can't remember what my question was going to be now.
Okay, well,
shoot.
I think I mostly agree with that. I think there is, I have one little bit of pushback, I think there, which is that there are times, and this is because one of the other ways that this debate plays out is in cancel culture. And like if someone has like written something and then you find out that they're like did some bad things, whatever it is, like actual bad things. We can talk about we can talk about like real moral, like, you know, failings. They did something actually bad. Like is what they wrote no longer like something that's worth engaging in, right? Like is it all like somehow poisoned or corrupted, or like just we shouldn't give them a platform, whatever it is. Like there's different reasons to cancel their content, right? And there are times when I think like the death of the author can serve as a useful tool there to some degree, because it's like there is still something valuable that can be gleaned, but we might have to redeem it. We might have to like actually save its appearance from its person, from the originating, you know, and like divorce it from that. So like so for the most part, I agree with you. I think ideas really are embedded in their persons, and separating them like can be a form of, I don't like to use the word idolatry, whatever. Can be a form of objectivism, or propositionalizing, whatever it is. Like I think there is a place for it sometimes, in that it can be useful, even if it's just like a useful, I don't know, psychological comfort. I don't even know. Like there's something there where like you don't necessarily want to throw the baby out with the bathwater every time. And there are, you know, and I think we acknowledge this much better in places that are like more like, I would say, more like in STEM than we do in the social side, or like on the soft side, on the humanities side. Because, and I don't know
STEM
why
is trying to do that.
Right. Well, because maybe science, like and math, like claims that they can already do this. Like if a physicist, like, I don't know, murder somebody, like it's their physics shouldn't, like, it shouldn't really call into question like the validity of their experiments or like their quality, unless they faked that data, right? Like unless they're like did actual unethical practices in the collecting of the data, in the experiments, in reporting it, or in their, you know, math.
Well, that's right. But then that's the thing. If the physicist is a murderer, what does that mean about his character and like what he could possibly do with the data?
Right. But that's character. There's some extent where like I also can retest his idea. I can rerun that experiment, not being a murderer, and like if it still holds up, then I know that that part was not really affected by it.
Yeah.
You can't do that in the humanities in the same way, and that makes it much harder to draw a line. And this gets into Paul's stuff. I know he was in the comments. Maybe he'll have some thoughts.
Paul, get in here. What are you
on the secular, you know, on the secularizing of truth, and like that in some ways, when truth gets divorced from institutions and persons and becomes something in theory that can be independently tested, outside of any specific culture or context, and then like you really get something that's a little more both universalizable and also solid, right? And kind of an interesting way. And if God really is, the seal of truth, or the truth, and the light, then like you should transcend those types of boundaries and persons, right? Like, so like there is a sort of, it doesn't have to be platonic necessarily, but there's something there, right? Where like it should be
God is
diversible.
always, yeah, he's always in and beyond, and like you can't. He's not exclusively beyond, or I mean, that's at least. I mean, I think Judaism probably agrees with that. Doesn't it? I mean, that's like to me, that's a very incarnate. Well, where the difference is probably incarnationally is that where we probably differ, because there's so many similarities. I think Judaism in particular, somebody was saying this in one of the comments on my streams recently, that Christianity doesn't have a tradition of essentially midrash and debate, like that process.
That was my comment, buddy.
Was that you? Okay, yeah.
That it was process, healthy. It was holy argument.
Holy argument, yeah. But like that process itself is assuming that there's not, that the debate itself is important. The dialectic.
Well, that tension, right? That tension. I think there's an assumption that comes out, and this is why dialogos, the way that like Vervaeke has like done it, or circling, to me, are like very Christian, is because it's like this attempt to try to get at like these deeper stories, truths, persons, with this very winsome kind of soft way, and not really. I wouldn't say it's not a brave space. It can be a brave space still, but I don't think it really pushes people into the tensions in the same way. And there is something fruitful in tension. Is the claim, right? I mean, yeah, sure, it's a claim that Judaism makes, that there is a lot of fruit in the tension, and that like life, we can't just pretend that it doesn't have those things, right. Or like that's the only solution is not. Like the tensions are real. It doesn't necessarily have to be like dialectic in the Hegelian sense. Like there's no claim that there's always going to be a synthesis, but like there's this beautiful image that Rab Nachman of Breslov has. So he's a Hasidic teacher of the early 1800s. Actually, he's the Jewish George MacDonald. I brought him up before because he also tells these stories. He also writes these.
Yeah. What's his name? If he's the Jewish George MacDonald, I have to check this guy out.
Nachman of Breslov.
Oh wow! You just
I'll send it. I'll send you his name. He's great. And so he was at some point, basically he stops writing as much kind of like, what would I call it, like formal works, and he switches into storytelling, and it's fantasy storytelling specifically. It's like replete with like dense, symbolism, lots of, funny, all these things. Hey man, look at that chat.
Howdy.
And he gives this thing, and this is he's 100 years, 80 years before Tolkien. And you'll hear the similarity, but there's also a key difference. So for him, he understands disagreement, like real, not just like there's like two models of disagreement. There's like disagreement that's like political, egoistic, like just trying to, right, like Philo-Nicaea, like that's not, like that's what we call unholy disagreement. That's or an argument not for the sake of heaven.
Thank God.
And then there's arguments that are for the sake of heaven, where like both sides really have legitimate and meaningful positions that can be like derived from reality, but they don't seem to be they don't seem to fit together. It seems that there is a real tension or disagreement.
You can't see the unity, but you're assuming it. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're both, and that's a holy argument. And for him, he says, what's that like? It's basically, he says, it's like when you're playing music, and you have two notes that they sound discordant, right? They don't work together. And of course, when I read this, after I read Tolkien, because I read Tolkien as a kid, and I was like, well, this is the Tolkien creation method, but except it's not, because what he says is, no, this is holy disagreement. And holy disagreement you have that discordant note played, and what you need is you can't synthesize them. You can't bring them to, like, they're going to be two notes that don't, when you hear them on their own, they don't sound good together. You need to find a third note, and there's always a third note that completes the chord and makes it a harmony. And it's a harmony that doesn't come out of those two notes collapsing. It's a harmony, well, except here, this doesn't work for Trinitarianism, because this says that there's a fundamental disagreement at the very core of reality. If you take this as Trinitarian, you can't use this unless you're Hegel, right? The Hegelian Trinitarian, where like that God, like the Father, has to die, is kind of the only sort of version of Trinitarianism that this sort of works, right? But you have a fundamental disagreement between these notes. You have a third. And this is true in music theory. There's a great lecture by Jacob Collier about this. There's always another note you can play that actually creates a full chord out of those two discordant notes. So like this is a really cool little thing, because you never have to collapse the notes into each other. They don't have to agree. They don't lose their individualism or particularity. You still play them at the same time. But you need that extra thing, that extra framing effect, that third, to hear them actually not being discordant, but actually to hear. And this to me is, this is a very powerful like Torah to me. And it's because it's this, and right, Tolkien could never have had this though, because for Tolkien there has to be a dualism between good and evil, and there is no way that like good has to defeat evil. Like that's a shit. It's this very, I would call it, it's Zoroastrian, whatever, but this is the Enochic package, as I've called it before. Like you have good and evil, and yes, maybe the evil, God created Satan or the other whatever lower being, and maybe the other being rebelled, or maybe he didn't, but it was like God's God's plan, whatever that is. But ultimately, God has to defeat it, and like it can't really be part of creation eschatologically. Like it has to be.
So is this kind of one of the big TLC disagreements that you've had or you've outlined? That essentially, it's almost like the positing of evil as negation or shadow or not real or in contrast to the good, without having some sort of like, I don't know, ontology itself.
Yes, this gets back to my disagreement with Nate to some degree. We can also talk about whether one actually sees the disagreement of, let's say, Satan and God as a holy argument or a non-holy argument, right?
Yeah.
I think I think that's part of the way to frame this, is that Christians see it as a non-holy argument and Jews see it as a holy argument, because God created Satan and does it, and it's not rebellion for us, right? So like none of that makes sense. It is God wants that tension in our being and created us with the Yetzer Tov, the God created the egoic and the divine passions within us. Like that is not a mistake. And like that, I think that is a very different frame. I was just listening to Rabbi Shais Taub had an interesting interview where he framed it as the ego. God created the ego as a way to so that we could have our own identity in front of him. Like without an ego, we would not exist. It gives us that ability to not melt into uniformity, right?
Yeah.
Like that we actually can play a separate note, but one can overstress the ego, and when you overstress the ego, so for him it was actually interesting. So he was being asked in this interview, like what's the like greatest thing that people wrestle with, and for him it was fear. And he understood fear, and it might be much like the way you would, I think, where fear is when someone overstresses the ego and is afraid to kind of let it go, right? Like and so it's not that the ego is bad, and it's not that you want to self-nullify, it's that you want to nullify the fear of not holding on, like you're holding on too much to the idea of the ego. You need to give away part of it.
So can I want to respond to that a little bit and see how I would frame that and cage that, say a few things about Christianity. And then I don't know if Chad is just hanging out. And then we also have Nate here to chat. I don't know how much time you have. How much time do you have first?
Me? Yeah. Very little. I've got another meeting. I got another meeting in about 30 minutes.
Okay, well I'll try to be really quick, just to respond to Yosef so we don't lose it. So I think ontology of evil, I don't really know what I would think about that, because everything for me, I've talked about this with like angelology, and you could think about it in like almost a music of the Inure. Tolkien talks about that, this kind of angelic cascade with like levels and hierarchies of angels. If there is something that exists like evil, I don't think it exists as like an abstract category. That the abstract category, if you conceive of it that way, would be a being. It would be rooted in some angel like Lucifer or Satan or whatever. And then the way that I usually conceive of that in relation to Christianity is that it's not so much that like, I think of it in a George MacDonald way, that like evil is destroyed by being transformed. It's transformed into the good. That's why he says annihilation itself is no elimination of evil, but only in the good where the evil was is annihilation, is the evil erased. And so it's not and so in the eschaton, there's not like this continuance of evil. It's transformed evil. It's the eucatastrophe. And I think that's a Christian thing. And how Christians, I think, conceive of difference isn't so much an absolute other. It is ultimately in a kind of Trinitarian perichoretic dance of, because this is how everything is reconciled in Christ in me. The co-eternal persons, the church then is united in them. And this is ultimately why I'm a Christian universalist, is like the core of my being, my existence. I don't have self-existence. I only have existence in Christ, in God, as a Christian. And so like if whatever dies, whatever is capable of dying, has no unity to that. And then whatever in me, which is the icon of God, the image of God, as that is transformed through the burning off of my dead wood and everything that is false in me, the only thing then that is left is then filled with God in Christ. And so that's how that's how the genuine other is maintained in Christianity. But it's all ultimately in God. Okay, yeah, you're back.
Oh, gosh. Where's the shadow in that? Where is there room in such a model for integration of the shadow?
Well, ultimately, like in the eschaton, there really isn't gonna, like everything is filled with the light of God. Like there is no shadow.
This was
of all of the conversations for me to drop into.
Yeah, Luke said
preordained.
Well, I thought you were listening, Nate, because Luke literally just said
I was in a meeting.
The debate.
I was in a work meeting.
Luke said, "Isn't this the old debate you had with Nate?" And I was like,
yeah,
"Yes, it's the old debate I had with Nate."
It's the old debate. Yeah, it's the old debate. Yeah.
And this is where, like, it's so, for most people, this is like where Rod Hare and most people are like, this is so abstract, like I don't care.
But well, let's turn for a moment to what shadow, right? Shadow is we can perceive shadow, but shadow is ultimately non-substantive. It's not real. It's shadow.
So I referenced shadow because I was using the Jungian, but yeah, I don't necessarily want to get trapped in the metaphor.
This is shadow.
I understand that.
This is shadow, and he's very real. Okay.
It's also funny because in this week's Torah reading we have the building of the tabernacle, or we don't have the building of the tabernacle. We have it's giving up Torah Sinai, but we were talking about Bezalel. So Bezalel is the guy who actually like builds, like he's the architect of the tabernacle. It's not Moses, right? It's this other guy. His name literally means shadow of God, or in the shadow of God. And like, what's that mean to be in the shadow of God? And what's that mean to be that the tabernacle's architecture is within the shadow of God, right? Like shadow, I think, is a very different connotation because we're thinking about it I think we think about it in a very kind of physics, material sense of like absence of light. Whereas like in Torah, right, like being under someone's shadow is being under their protection, being under their wing, right? Like it has a very different connotation, I think. But I don't want to get trapped in the metaphors. Because my point was that this came out when I was talking. I don't know if you guys know Stephen so well. Stephen's was an Eastern Orthodox convert who's now is more of like a Noahide.
We lost one for you guys.
He still goes to, he just is a heretic. But it's really interesting because one of the things, so he's super fascinated by the incense. And one of the aspects of the incense is that one of the spices doesn't smell good. And like the incense is supposed to represent, like we understand it as representing like our entire being, and you bring everything of yourself to God, including the parts of you that don't smell good. And like that also gets sanctified. You don't get rid of it. And the part that doesn't smell good by itself actually makes the pungency of the rest of the spices strong enough. Like it acts almost like salt, right? It makes the other flavors stronger so you can smell them. But like one of the spices on its own does not smell good. And like that is a very, like, that to me, that is shadow, like shadow integration. And like we don't have to use the term shadow, we don't have to use the metaphor. We can go back pretty young to where Judaism talked about this hundreds of years before him already. On like how does one bring the parts of oneself that seem egoic, that seem stuck, that are the Yetzer Hara, right? That are this egoic drive, and sanctify them and use them for the good. And like that, and we don't get rid of them. We refine them. Those are specifically the parts that get refined. Those are specifically the parts that you might, bring to the fire and, get the dross off of. But that is what shadow is.
Right.
Is that you, like, not shadow. We can use a different word. But like that is the elevation of the sparks within, the fallen vessels.
Listen, I'm saving the appearances of what you're saying. You don't have to. Chad, I think unmuted. Chad, you have something to say, buddy?
Was that Stephen, like the whiskey making Stephen?
Yes, Stephen the whiskey making Stephen, or the
Wow.
wine and absinthe making Stephen. Yeah.
Interesting. That's very
Stephen
interesting.
Yes, Stephen D20.
So, okay, yeah, I was thinking about this idea about memory and evil, and how it was kind of relating to like this idea of evil being something that's like evil doesn't possess memory. Yeah, it can't remember. It only knows. Something like that. But yeah, that's all I'd say. I'll shut up.
Chad
What
Chad
do
is
you
one
mean?
of those. This is the thing though with Chad is like he's a weird, brilliant shaman. Sometimes I relate to this in Chad. Is like when Chad says something like that, it's almost certainly true. And if you just don't understand it, you just have to ruminate on it. Nate, you have ideas, buddy? Since you're here for 20 minutes long?
I mostly showed up because I said I would.
Well, that was nice.
Because I didn't even know what the conversation was because I'd been in a work meeting.
So we can continue talking about this, or you could talk about. Are you going to talk with Daniel? I was talking about that.
I haven't heard back from him yet. I pitched what I wanted to talk about,
which is, I want to know.
Yeah, like the thing that, like, he says a lot of interesting things, but the thing that really caught my attention is when he was on your, which I didn't get, had no idea your live stream was happening because YouTube doesn't tell me when you're streaming anymore, except for randomly this morning it did. And I can't change my notifications. I tried to change it to notify me anytime that you're on, anytime you produce a video, and it won't let me change my notification settings.
Which is what everyone should do, and everyone should email YouTube because they're shadow banning me. Clearly,
you may actually have that. I strongly suspect that there may be something to that because I actually can't change my notification levels for your channel. It won't allow me to do it.
That's because I'm telling the people the truth of love, and they can't divide us with their fear and anger anymore.
Yeah. So I caught it through Paul because Paul was talking about it, and in the portion of the conversation where you're talking about pluralism, when the way he was talking about the way that people can react to to the Gödel point by either opting for enclosure or a more open stance that invites the logos, that reminded me very much of Tom Berg's concept of the closed world of the serpent versus the world that is open to Sabbath. Yeah. And so I sent him letter 10 of Meditations where Tom Berg discusses that and framed that conversation as what I wanted to talk about.
That would be great. I love how you have so thoroughly, I would say, Eucharistically known the writing of Tom Berg that it just like infuses because that's the thing. Once you know the way broadly, you see it in everything. You've done that almost with Tom Berg, and it's such a thorough, robust book anyhow that like you can apply it to so many different things. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah. So that was the thing. I mean, that's the thing that caught my attention. That was enough to motivate me to like, hey, maybe I want to, maybe there's something I want to do, because I haven't been motivated enough to actually do anything in a long, basically since Sherry went your own way. I really haven't.
You lost your muse
too much. So yeah, I mean, well, that's really like. Well, I know you know this story, Luke, but for you probably have people that are new that don't know this story, so I'll go ahead and tell it.
Yeah.
I never intended to start a YouTube channel. That was never a thing that I ever thought I would want to do. The reason I started Grill Country is because Michael suggested it over and over to me that I should do it. Mm-hmm. And my caveat for agreeing to do it was, okay, Michael, but you and Sherry have to do it with me, or I'm not doing it.
Yeah. It was always a group thing. Yeah.
Because I knew right off the bat that if I did something, I had no interest in monologuing on the camera.
That's for me. But even my channel started from.
No, I'm not. I have no problem with other people doing it. It's just like monologuing on camera is not for me.
You're too humble.
No, I don't think. No. I think it's quite the opposite. Actually, it's because I would easily get too caught up in my own thoughts, and let my own thoughts drive things too much, and which I wanted to explore things in concert with others. So I'll probably still do interviews from time to time, but until I find someone else to work with, I probably won't produce any non-interview content, because interviews are conversations, and I can still do conversations, so I'll probably do that. So I pitched the conversation to Daniel, and I just got my pre-ordered copy of Martin Shaw's Liturgies of the Wild. I might reach out to Martin once I've read it and see if Martin wants to come back on and do Grill Country again.
So that must be. So I was reading. You probably didn't see this earlier. I was reading from this Substack, Steve Ehrman, who I think was writing based off of that book. It's called The Theology of Remaining.
Okay.
And it was excellent. Like, it's really good writing, but I think it's based off of Martin Shaw's stuff.
I shared it in Grail Country about 20 minutes before your stream started, I think.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay.
It's great. It's in the resource links if you need it.
Yeah, it's super good. It should be in the description of this too, but I didn't read it all, but I read a significant portion of it earlier on in the stream. It's really good. So, yeah, it's been the corner's been missing your influence, and we haven't hung out because I
don't know. I feel like the corner's doing fine. You've got some exciting new voices, and a lot of whom are like, that's the thing. That's the other thing about Dan. The other thing about Daniel, the reason I want to talk to Daniel is that there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
Between what Daniel talks about and the things that I've historically talked about in Grill Country. There's a lot of similarity there, and enough difference to make it interesting.
For sure.
And that's why I'm interested in talking to him. So yeah, I think your corner is in good hands. I'll still do stuff when I'm motivated to.
Okay, listen here. Okay, I think we're going to be working on final words here because I got to get going. But Cassandra said she wasn't notified either. Okay, listen, people, YouTube. All right, I'm trying to make big bucks here. I'm trying to make a lot of money, and I can't make money.
You probably shouldn't sing, pop songs that they're going to take you for. Then
do they? Why? But if I'm singing it, it's a cover.
No, it doesn't matter. They don't care. Believe me.
Sometimes it matters. If you do an Eagles song, watch out. I did a
Yeah.
Doolin Dalton. I did an acoustic version of Doolin Dalton, and they hit me with a copyright claim on the channel that I deleted.
Yeah.
And I think that actually YouTube should offer something called voluntary timeout without recourse. I think they should actually offer that. And it would be advantageous for them to do that, but they won't do it.
Yeah.
It's such a weird thing to me. I guess it's just like they demonetize you, right? But like your
Yeah.
thing is still up. Guess what? I don't care.
I know you don't.
So, all right. Well, let's do because like it's on to me. I actually just crossed I think 700 subs or something. It's unbelievable to me.
I'm really surprised that you haven't gone higher than that. That's somewhat surprising to me.
But I think it's because I don't. There's no way you could characterize. I mean, I bob in and out of what would be called information or content, but like that's why there's so many. It's a lot like PVKs. There's so many things of just like people would just be like, what are you talking about? You know, what is, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not nothing, everything all at once. You know, look at this guy. I was just thinking about you the other day too, Jess.
Dude,
Alan,
like all my friends are on.
I know.
Wow. Look at
Did
that.
you not get notified?
Well, I
Hi,
don't.
Jess.
I mean, your stream comes up on my homepage if you're streaming. I don't get notifications though. I don't know how.
Listen, you're supposed to click the bell whenever I'm doing anything,
Well,
so it shoves it in your face.
Bell did notify me, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, listen.
But then I had a work call too, so
Yeah. So yeah, you know,
I don't have
it's all
time
right.
for nonsense.
Right. Okay. Well, Alan can't even get his thing to go, but
Yeah.
let's go around with first and last words. Do you want to start, Jess, or do you want to wait?
I don't even know what you guys are talking about. I just saw all my favorite people, so
Nice. Well, that was nice.
yeah.
So
How's Marie?
Huh?
How's your wife?
Yeah, how's the old lady?
My wife's good. She's doing school. She has 2 jobs, and she's also a part of some cohort thing. And I guess that summarizes her pretty well.
Yeah. That was the best Alan has ever looked. just that spinning circle. All right. Yos. So what
Wait, I wasn't done. I wasn't.
Oh, wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. I interrupted.
Oh.
I broke my own rule. Someone mute me.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't even know what to say. Just hey.
Oh, hey.
Hey, man.
So what I was talking about was a lot of saving the appearances. I read from this Steve Herman, which is Desert and Fire is his Substack, but he wrote on it's in my description. It's called The Theology of Remaining, which is he's riffing on a lot of Martin Shaw's new book, I think, but it's super good. And I just discovered it, which Sam Spencer shared with me this morning because I didn't have anything to talk about. And then that really got me going. And then I went to a Grok summary of Owen Barfield's Saving the Appearances. And then we were talking about how that relates to law. And then, of course, Yosef came in. So he's like, Judaism, Torah. This isn't accurate for law. I'm just kidding. All right. Let's go around and do. I love you, Yosef. You know. Let's go around and do last words because I have to go. Does anyone want to start? Chad's coming.
All right. So, thank you. And yeah, if you think that everybody else is a problem, you're probably wrong. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, you're the problem. If you think everybody else is the problem, you're the problem.
I'm the fucking problem here.
Oh, geez.
The problem is that everyone else thinks they're not the problem. That's the problem.
Bro, I just told you I'm the problem. Why are you causing problems?
This is turning into a bit of a problem.
Yeah, look who thinks he's the problem. Huh?
Listen, I'm totally depraved, you know? Just totally depraved. All I am is shadow and darkness.
You ain't got to tell us twice.
Oh, all right. Chad, thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thanks, Chad.
Yosef, will you go next? Will you share some final words?
Sure. I mean,
Is there still
don't know, I
snow
feel-
where you are? Are you still
oh
trapped?
yeah, there's still snow. I wasn't. So the storm was here Sunday, Monday. We weren't plowed out until Friday. It was actually like a real failure on our local county's cart. And the roads still aren't great, honestly. They did not do a good job plowing. But we're
They don't know how to use snow plows.
I mean, we get snow every winter. It's not like we're up in the Midwest or
Yeah.
upper or New York or anything, Massachusetts. But yeah, we've had decent snows every year, at least once, but like winter. But this was the worst response I've seen. So I think the local government's probably going to get told off a lot this year, maybe in the elections, because this was a pretty big failure. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, mostly just been on top of the storm. I've been sick a lot, so I've just been home, working from home or resting. Do I have a last word? I can appreciate that these are very, very different perspectives. I think I want to keep pushing on this musical metaphor. I think that there's something there.
The musical trinity, is that what you call it?
And I think, since Jess is here, maybe I'll give. He won't even really. He'll get to go give me a last word response, I guess, but he won't even get into it with me. But we've had this debate many times over the years between Nate and me and Luke, whatever, on the ontology of evil and like the Enochic versus non-Enochic and Judaism and Christianity here. I think this is the first time I've articulated it as Christianity does not believe that the argument between Satan and God is an argument for the sake of heaven. That's a holy argument. And Judaism does believe it's a holy argument. And I think that is maybe the best framing to myself that I've come to. That's like a new way for me to look at the problem that I'm playing with. But since you're here and it's the book of Job and like it's all about Satan and God, like to me that book really exemplifies that like what I see as the Jewish frame of this model life. But anyway, something we could talk about later.
Good teaser. Good teaser.
And I actually do have to go. I have a meeting now. But
Bye, Joseph.
So
I'll
good to
listen to your response in the stream after, Jess, if you do want to respond to those last one.
All right.
He doesn't.
Good to see you.
All right, bye. Jess or Nate?
Oh, I think well, I mean, just to respond quickly to you, I think that's right. But it's like one of those things where you have to be aware of your brother with a weaker faith sort of thing. Like people aren't like you, this isn't like someone's becoming a Christian and then you basically drop the bomb on them that Satan's part of God's plan. Maybe just start with first, like, try not to do evil and fight against the evil one in your life. Like that's a lot more practical for people. But
welcome in, Satan's secret good guy.
That reminds me of like kind of like keep your eyes on your own paper or something like that, which makes complete sense to me.
But there is something to like it in Matthew Peugeot's terms, like the accuser. There's a case to be made for the good accuser. Yeah, and there's also a case to be made for the fallen accuser also. So I think.
Or like Phoebus and Claire.
Like Phoebus and what?
Claire.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't even know if, but here's the thing. Like, I think the book of Job is saying, like, even the fallen accuser is still good for the whole.
Claire, did you just hear the gospel?
So, like, I mean, there is a time to, like, you ban people and you cut them off, and, like, you got to do that because we're just limited people. but in the whole scheme of things, everything is God either, it's not even that he redeems everything. Everything is good. But that's a you almost can't even say that, because
Or becoming good.
you got to have God's perspective to say that, and you end up justifying or using that to, justify things that you shouldn't usually. And so you can't necessarily say that, but you can kind of trust that that's what happens in the end or something.
Yeah. It's like the mind of Christ and wisdom.
Yeah, conquering death by death. I mean, we have it. It's very sort of like, it's in your face with the crucifixion and in what Christ does. But it also, sometimes we, Christ is everything. So like, I don't, I mean, you guys know what I'm saying. I don't know how to talk about it otherwise. I was talking about the good accuser, the good, the bad, and the fallen accuser with my dad. And my dad was like, I hear every word you say. It makes sense, but it's not landing for me. I'm like, he's like, I want it to land, but I don't know how. Like, I don't know how either. So,
how do you get someone to see, man? It's one of our oldest.
Yeah, or even why is it important? Like, where's that touch point for like the person who has just sort of like an idea of penal substitutionary atonement? Where's the touch point for that? And I don't necessarily know. Like, you almost have to have some sort of existential crisis in order to get past that.
Right, but that's very related to what I was talking about earlier. There is no generic touch point. There's only a particular touch point, and whatever it is for each person is something they figure out in their own becoming, right?
Yeah, and it'll happen. You don't necessarily have to force it, and you don't have to like worry about it. But you can be aware of whether you're talking to someone who understands that or not.
That's right, because we're Calvinists and God is sovereign. Me?
And that's why I'm a Calvinist.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. Well, I just got on here to follow through with my promise, and it so happened that so many of my favorite people happen to be here at the same time. So that was a blessing this morning. I am not in the mood to get into the old debate today, but I do really appreciate the things that Jess said. And here's the thing I will say this about the old debate. Like, there's this impasse that Joseph and I always come to, but I've always had the sense that there's something that there's actually there's some synthesis that is possible that neither of us has seen yet, because it's not like, I think a lot of what he says has merit and I would agree with, but I just the framing I can't quite accept the framing that he uses. And I'll just leave it at that. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, thanks everyone for coming. This is new levels of heights. I appreciate everyone coming. You guys probably didn't even see my branding. I figured out branding. Chad's branding.
Was that the first time you were doing it? By the way, that was not a critique. It was just an observation. It was like, oh, this is new. I've never seen Luke do this before.
Yeah. So this was like this is how I opened it with Jeff's Super Mario Meow. So that was the meowing, and then Chad made these. I showed these to my wife too last night. His brandings, which I won't show you. You'll have to tune in next time.
Tune in next time to see their branding.
You'll have to subscribe, and YouTube not let you know when it's happening. But Chad made them, and my wife was just like, "Turn those off."
That's multiple people now are saying that they're subscribed to your channel and not getting notifications.
Listen,
I probably would contact YouTube and say, "Hey, what's up?"
I don't think they care.
I know they don't care.
Take that, universalists.
Yeah, they don't want everyone's trying to silence the universalists. Everybody.
What did your wife say about the branding? I want to know that. That's
She
what I'm interested.
thought it was. She didn't want to watch it. She thought it was disturbing.
Come on.
That's what she thought. But she does, Chad. Do you still? Can you do this for me? Do you still have the like Bridges of Meaning news?
Nope,
Dance-
those got
Dance
deleted.
Monkey video?
They're all deleted.
But you don't have it anywhere? Nowhere?
Nope. They're gone.
That's
Oh, wow.
not okay. That's not okay. Can you redo it?
Why is that not okay? I think that's exactly is God's will.
It's God's will for you to recreate it. That's what he's telling me.
I think
There's
it's
a
God's will
reason,
for
buddy.
you to create it.
This is a problem. This is a problem. This is going to be a problem. All right. Well, that's all, everyone.
Really good to see you, Chad.
Good to see you all. Thank you. And until next time.